Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast. Excited for today's guest. He's an entrepreneurial evangelist. And what he does is he helps up and coming entrepreneurs build their businesses and define their core values. Excited to be rocking out today with Jason Skeesick. Hey, Jason, you ready to rock?
Tim, I'm always ready to rock. I'm really excited to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Yes, this should be a lot of fun. So tell me, we always start off here on a good note. So tell me a story of success in your business that we can be inspired by.
I'll give you one. I have owned a CrossFit gym for about 12 years. I no longer run it, but it's been the passion of my life up until now. It's a tribe and a community that I built with some friends, starting in 2010. And I had at the time been working in financial services as well and kind of moonlighting, back and forth. It was a little side project type hobby. But there came a time where I realized that I really just only could think about my tribe and my community and helping them to get fitter and to connect better and to have a better and better experience. And so I became a full-time entrepreneur in 2016. I think it was 2016, maybe 2015. And we were super successful. As soon as I took the skills that I had learned from banking and from my time in the military and applied it to a real capital B business at our gym, all of a sudden we had these results shoot through the roof. And so my success story is that I think we 9x'd our business in about 18 months. So we almost 10x'd the business in about 18 months, which was fantastic. And it allowed us to help so many more people. Coming into 2020, I was able to move that gym to a bigger location. I was able to transfer over primary ownership to someone who was young and hungry. Shout out to my brother, Andrew. And he has done just a terrific job, even navigating, obviously, the 2020 crisis that we all faced. But I know your second question, and spoiler alert, it's the same answer. So
the bad note and the good note always go together, don't they?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
Okay, so you had primed me for this, so I will say that the bad note was, 2020 was the transfer of ownership was being closed in the city of Chicago for many months and having a ton of uncertainty. And I mean, when I say that I love my community, Tim, I mean that there are babies walking around, something like 5 to 10 children walking around right now that only exist because their parents met in our community. There's marriages, there's businesses that have sprung out of it. There's people who maybe were on diabetes medicine for their entire lives that are now off of it. This is something that has been a huge community and tribe that I loved. And then moving away from that was a real struggle. And watching COVID-19 and the sort of fallout from that really affect it negatively. There was really nothing that we could do. The business is fine; it's thriving now under new ownership, but it's just not. For me, that was a big struggle for me because I tell people sometimes it's like if you raised a child till they were 12 and then let somebody else raise the child after that, and you feel like you can't really make an impact anymore. And so I definitely have strong feelings about letting that child go and letting that child go off into the world, and especially the world that we find ourselves in now.
Yeah, it certainly is a different world than it was 5 years ago, isn't it?
Yeah, that's true. But
Yeah.
Fortunately, we need fitness more than ever. So they're doing very well, I think.
Yeah, I agree. And the other big thing is that I think in a lot of ways it separated us, but it also brought a lot of people together, especially people with like minds. It brought, I think, like minds more together, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I think yes, it divided us, and yes, we still obviously could spend hours if we wanted to ruin our lives and talk about all the negative things still going on.
Yeah.
But you're right, it did bring people closer together. And one thing that it really did was it hit the fast forward button on being a work at home rock star, right? It hit the fast forward button on people's ability to do the thing that that Tim, you're an expert in.
Yeah, it's funny. I've been running this podcast since I think 2015 or 2016 now. And back then I remember like almost every couple episodes I'd be like, you'll see, eventually everybody's going to be working from home. But I didn't see it coming this way. I thought it would be more of a gradual kind of like people would start to figure it out. But you're right. The whole force people home it actually changed the landscape, even in big companies where
Mhm.
I know before this whole lockdown happened, I know a lot of my friends who are working for larger companies that just wanted nothing to do with working from home. No, 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 you cannot work from home, even though they had the ability to do so. You could work overtime from home, but you couldn't work your day to day from home. You had to come in, and you know, a lot of that has now changed. A lot of these companies now realize that you can definitely be successful working from home. And then that just, I think, translates to the next level of, well, what about working a business from home? What about, you know, doing something else from home, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Go ahead.
and that's where we are today.
Yeah. Yeah, unquestionably.
So speaking of which, work from home, I mean, there are some challenges, especially when it comes to, you know, I think a lot of these companies had a hard time figuring out how to get their employees to work from home because, you know, you've got a nice little workspace, you've got a nice cubicle or an office at work. You know, they couldn't imagine people working from their kitchen tables at home or, you know, but what is your approach to making sure that you have a workspace from home?
Yeah, I think I would first offer kind of a counter opinion because I worked at the biggest bank in the world for a number of years and worked from home a little bit and felt that pressure. I felt sort of the, oh yeah, you can work from home, but then they would kind of give you that catty side eye or whatever. And actually, what I think is maybe the alternative is true. I know quite a few folks that work from home now, and they tell me that they're more productive. And one of the reasons is when you're in an office, let's face it, if anybody listening to this ever worked in an office, you probably in an 8 or 10 hour day are working in most cases 1 to 4 hours of that time,
Yep.
right? And because you're working to work. But when I'm working from home, I'm working for freedom, which means if I can get this shit done right now, then I can go do the thing that I want to do. And so I'm getting everything done in a much more effective way, a much more efficient way. And it's because I'm fighting for my freedom. I'm working for my freedom. So the people that I talk to now are very productive if they're able to be from home. But to your point about, you know, the space, you know, as you can see, we moved. I didn't say it explicitly, but we moved from Chicago to the Indiana Dunes National Park, which is about 45 minutes outside of the city, in the dunes and on the beach at Lake Michigan. And we made sure that we had a dedicated space for me to segregate myself from the rest of the house, have a nice, comfortable environment where I can coach clients, where I can record podcasts, and work. And that has been just absolutely crucial to our success.
Yeah, that's amazing. I'm so happy that you said that about work for freedom because I think that that's like, if you're wondering whether you're the type of person that would actually be successful, work from home, it depends on how, like, I mean, if you're just running out the time and you know, you're trading the time for money, well, then that's a different thing. But if you're like the type that, you know, I know I remember when I was working from the cubicle and I noticed real quick that I was able to get my work done a lot faster than everybody else.
Oh yeah.
And I'm embarrassed to say that I actually do remember having to just kind of drag it out a little because I can't just keep working. Like, you know, when you're doing 4 hours of work within a 1 hour period, you know, compared to your peers, eventually that starts looking bad on your peers and you start to get kind of like in trouble from your peers.
Yeah.
So you sort of drag it out. But when you start to work from home, then it changed everything because then all of a sudden they didn't know how long I was working for. Now it's a matter of I get it done in an hour. They think I worked 4 hours. Everybody's happy. Nobody looks bad.
Right.
And you know, I think that's maybe that's an idea whether you should be working from home or not is if that happens to you, right?
Yeah. Have you heard the term overemployed? I think it's overemployed. Uh,
Overemployed,
I
too
believe
qualified, maybe?
overemployed is exactly what you're talking about. It's where somebody that's in a tech industry or you know a corporate industry is capable of doing basically 2 or even maybe 3 jobs. And so I have a friend, I'm not going to say by name because I don't know if he would want people to know,
Nope.
that has like multiple 6-figure jobs because you know they expect you know this 10 hours worth of work, which was really always 4 or 3,
Mhm.
and so he got 3 different jobs that are you know 4 or 3 hours per day and has you know just compounded that. It's like 2 full-time and like 1 part-time job. And I think that's a Reddit thing.
I never thought to do that. I should have gotten another job.
But here we are. We couldn't be having this fantastic conversation if you were working somewhere else.
No, it's true. And
Yeah.
ultimately that's what ended up pushing me out of the company was I'm disillusioned by the whole thing. I'm like, what am I doing?
Yeah.
I'm not fulfilling my potential here. I need to be doing something for myself, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you had mentioned in the pre-chat that you've been involved in some masterminds. What's your overall opinion on learning from other people? Like, is this something that you regularly do? Have you bought coaches? Have you paid for coaches? Like, do you go to seminars? What do you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So for starters, just to give some perspective, I think every single person, not entrepreneur, but every single person needs three people in their life. One is a mentor, somebody that has been where you want to go and is willing to give you that information. Whether I have paid mentors, I have multiple. I have paid mentors and I have just friend mentors. The second is a peer group, is people who are where you're at now that are facing similar but different problems from you, and you can help each other to solve those problems and help each other commiserate sometimes when things aren't going well, or share each other's victories when things are going well. And the third is mentees. Is having somebody below you who is on the same path as you, but maybe a few years behind you, that you can help. And I will tell you that I get probably the most energy from that last group, the mentee group. I have a mastermind. I have a mastermind professionally, but I also have a local group of young men that are entrepreneurs that I meet with once a week. And that call gives me probably the most energy of all. So yes, to answer your question, I believe it was 2015 was the first mastermind that I went to, and I lucked out. It was over the top. It was in a vineyard that they rented in San Diego, and it was just unbelievable. There were people in the industry that were famous, with a couple 100,000 Instagram followers. So as an entrepreneur who didn't know what the hell that really meant in fitness, this was like a really good hook, because there was, respectfully to them, it wasn't the most transformational information that I learned, but I saw like what it could feel like to succeed in this industry and have success. And I developed relationships there that have lasted till now and will probably last till I go to the grave. And yeah, I've invested in my, I think every single year that I've been an entrepreneur, I've invested more money into my professional and personal development than I did the previous year. With one exception of 2020, every single year, I think I've leveled up. Frankly, 2020, I leveled up as an entrepreneur, just not financially.
Yeah. You learn a lot of hard lessons in that year, right?
That's unquestionable. Yeah. Yeah.
But you know what? I think that those years, those tough years, also help you to create systems that make you, recession proof and that kind of stuff, right? Because I think we're headed into some interesting times in the near future as well for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, and I love that word systems, because I think that a lot of times as entrepreneurs, the two things that we think are going to be our success are sort of this magical idea between our ears. It's like people think there's like a magical mission. I'm the best massage therapist. I'm the best fitness trainer. I'm the best music producer, whatever that may be. And hard work. And those two things, unfortunately, in the thousands of entrepreneurs that I've met and hundreds that I've worked with professionally, most of them were world class or very close to it in fulfillment, in doing the thing that they do really well. And most of them had tons and tons of passion. That's not what made the ones that were successful. What made the ones that were successful were the ones that took the magic from between their ears and scaled it out scientifically to either a team or even just to the world using a system. And so I love that you use the word system there.
Yeah.
Hey, Rockstar. I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Work at Home Rockstar podcast. If you didn't know already, my business is Creative Crew Agency. We build websites. Now, let's talk about your website for a minute. Most people realize that at this day and age, we need a website, but we don't really know what the website is supposed to do. And sometimes you'll just go and build a website for the sake of building a website. What I do is I make sure that your website actually accomplishes a goal. Now, there are three main goals to most websites. Number one is to provide information and build credibility. Number two is to schedule some sort of appointment and get them onto a sales call. Number three is to sell something like an e-commerce site. Now, when you're setting your website, you have to be very mindful that the visitor doesn't know what to do. And so you have to provide them with a roadmap that leads them down a path to wherever you want them to go. On my website, I want them to be on a free consultation. So that's why when you go to creativecrewagency.com, you'll see information about scheduling a free consultation. Now, for you though, I'm going to provide you with an extra link so that you can get your free website audit. Go to creativecrewagency.com/free website audit and schedule an audit with me. And I'll go through your website live and determine what we can do to improve your conversions and make sure that you're getting the business from your website. Go to creativecrewagency.com and we'll see you there.
Yeah, and I think we've been sort of misled to think that hard work is the secret sauce to success. And I mean, it doesn't take very long of speaking to somebody with success to find out that, yeah, sure, there's some hard work, but there's a lot of people that are working real hard not getting success too, right? There's something different.
Yeah, you're totally right about that. I mean, the anecdote I like to say is, when I first opened the gym, I was the hardest working and best athlete in the room. And everybody else kind of stayed low. And I got an injury and I stopped being a competitive athlete after a little while. And all of a sudden, everybody else blossomed. They had the space to step up and take the reins. And I've seen that in business too. The thing that gets you from one level to the next is usually the thing that would crush you if you tried to rely on it to get to that third level. Right. And so hard work for a lot of entrepreneurs is what got them able to pay their bills, able to have clients, able to, pay the payroll of a few employees. But the thing that's going to get you to the next level is almost never, brute force and hard work.
Yeah. And I mean, that leads us right into the next topic, which is about the band, because, that really is the key eventually. I mean, yeah, you can work hard, but the people that have these mega huge businesses, they're not alone. They're not solopreneurs. They have people around them. So how do you actually, find and motivate the people around you?
It's a terrific question. I would say there's two paths. One is you can contract it out, right? You can find people that are subject matter experts in the things that you do, particularly now. We live in a globalized economy. If I want to build a website, I can go to Bangladesh or India or any number of different countries where they really specialize in that and get a great deal with a great result. If I want to do something else, I go somewhere else. It's fine. For me personally, my mission is like building other missions for other entrepreneurs. And so part of that is like, I want to build a tribe. I want to build a community. I want to have a team of people that, right now I'm working very hard with my one employee, Mo. My one employee, Mo, is like a 24-year-old version of me. He's great. He's hardworking. He's disciplined. We're a core value fit, which is a big part of finding your team, especially remotely. And it's not going to be as quick as if I was working with somebody that was a VA or that was a professional, executive assistant or something like that. But because I'm taking the time to mentor him and teach him the things, and frankly, it makes me think through all these processes even more clearly. Because of that, in a year, I'll probably have a second brain walking around outside of my body. And if I can do that 1, 2, 3 times, I think we're unstoppable. So to me, those two things are, if you're like me, great, invest in people, find people that are core value fits, find people that get energy from the roles that they do. That's what I help people to do. And if it's something where you can be more transactional, where you can go out and hire and buy those folks, well, that's just a superior option because you don't have to invest a ton of time and energy into managing folks from all over the globe.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And this has come up a few times already about teaching other people, because I think that when you get really good at something, there's a lot that goes into it. There's a lot of steps that go into it. And then eventually you get to the point where you've got this ton of experience. And now when you do something, it's sort of like second nature. It just happens. Yeah. But then when you go and you try to teach it to somebody else, you have to deconstruct that again. You have to take it apart and figure out what it is you do. You can't just go, just do this and think that they're going to do it. Like you're like, okay, well, no, first you do this, then you do that. And that's really where you start to learn as well, because now you're breaking things up. Sometimes they might start asking you questions about, well, why do you do it that way? Oh, that's a good question. Well, I do it this way because I tried it this way and this way and this way and this way, and all those ways created this problem. So now I do it this way, and that's a huge growth for you. Now you can actually start to, and if you're smart enough, you can actually start to write that down, right, and create these systems, because that's the kind of stuff that you're going to be able to pass on to that mentee of yours, and they're now going to save themselves tons of problems that you went through, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you've ever taught anything, you know that as soon as you start teaching something, your skill multiplies. And I think that's because, in any given idea that you're covering, whether it's a jujitsu move or a musical thing or something in a class, I have found my chosen angle to look at that thing. But then as soon as I'm teaching a class, and I was a CrossFit coach for 12 years, I start to see all the dimensions of that thing because somebody has a different place. And so I can play around with that. I move around in my hand. And now I have a depth of knowledge that you could almost call wisdom, that I just never would have had if, my athletic body did the thing or my musical fingers did the thing and got it right the third time. I need the 30th time, the 300th time. That now I know it intimately. Does that make sense? And then so that for sure is interesting. The second thing I would say is what I do is help people with that. And I don't do it by telling you what to do. I think anybody who tells you what to do in a strategic sense is a liar. What I do is I ask questions, and those questions reveal exactly how you should be doing it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And you know what? I've got another analogy for music. So when sometimes the things that we do are not the optimal way of doing it. It's just the way that we've done it. And it can be through, I know that there are some songs or some things that I play, I've just always played it that way. And I guess maybe it's just a lack of understanding of that there was a better way to do it at the time, but that's how I do it now. And then when I sit down and go to try to teach somebody how to do that, they're like, hey, how did you play that? I'm like, actually, I wouldn't play it the way I just played it. here's how I would play it instead. And when you're teaching somebody else, you really can now start to figure out the things that you're doing wrong because you're trying to help somebody and they, you watch them try to do it your way and they stumble and you're like, oh, you're stumbling because, okay, I know why. All right, do it this way instead, right?
Yeah. I think that's great. I think that's a really good analogy. And for me, I don't even really care how we decide to get there. What I care is that, this is a fit for you and it gets us the result that you want, if that makes sense. I've become a lot more, I don't want to say agnostic, but I've become a lot more open to different ways to solve different problems as I've grown in entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Well, and that comes back to, when you're hiring people, when you're working with people, really, do you need their time? I don't think so. That doesn't matter. What you need is the result that they're going to provide out of that time. And however they want to do it, if they want to spend twice as much time because they just like doing it that way, then and you're paying for the result and the result is what you want, then let them do it that way. If that's what's lighting them up, right?
Yeah. I mean, listen, you're touching a nerve there because I came out of the military and then went into a banking situation that both, in the military, I had one deployment that was 15 months long and we literally were just digging holes and pulling cable in 120-degree weather, 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. And there was no like bird's tail that you could pull that would like squawk and then like work was over and we could go home because we got this thing done. It was just hopeless. And don't get me wrong, I had time in my life. I got in shape. I met great people. I have strong, lasting relationships and got, all that stuff. Then I go to the bank and the bank is the same thing, only way more confounding because now we're not actually doing anything most of the time. There's all these different, kind of red tape type meetings and bureaucracy stuff. We're working on things. I would offer to come in early so that I could leave a little bit early. And that's just not the way that they think. And so I had a commitment to myself and to anybody that I ever hired. I would rather you worked 15 minutes and got 8 hours worth of work done than work 8 hours and got 15 minutes worth of work done. So please, 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 get out as soon as you're done. And that's always been an ethic that I've tried to uphold. And I think that I've done that really well. I think that may be generational. I think that may be generational.
Yeah, I think it may be generational as well. And I think all that's changing. I really do. I think that there's a new world that's emerging right now, right?
Yeah. I don't in myself pride hard work over results. And so why on earth would I ask somebody else to do that?
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. It's time for your guest solo. I want to know what's exciting in your business right now.
Well, so when this comes out, you'll be able to, we will have launched our Dynasty Defined program. Our Dynasty Defined program is, basically like this. If you've ever hired great people and paid for coaching from gurus and hired managers who've had success from somewhere else, only to find that those people quickly turned into mediocrity, the plays maybe spiked performance briefly and then returned to business as usual, and management, kind of loses interest and starts to either coast or just leaves. Well, that's the same tired crap that my Chicago Bears have been shoving down my throat for over 30 years. Every single year we draft better players. We go to the same drafts that everybody else does, and we come home every single year without trophies. Meanwhile, the Green Bay Packers have had 2 coaches in 50 years. They've had 2 quarterbacks in 20 years. And it seems like no matter who's on the field, they're a contender every single year. And that's because most consultants and gurus sell tactical playbooks. They sell answers. We don't do that. We sell questions. And so what we help people to do is to take the magic between their ears, to scale it out to a team so that their mission can impact the world. We do that by helping you to build strong foundations. We scale that out using frameworks to scale to your team. And then we teach you how to have flow and manage the team from the field. So that's what we do. And if you're an entrepreneur, particularly a service-minded entrepreneur who's super passionate about a mission that you want to impact the world with, I would love to have a conversation with you. And I would love to, even if you don't become a client, would love to help in any way that I can.
Wow, I love it. Yeah, and tactics get outdated, right? There's always something.
Yeah, I didn't mean to cut you off, Tim, but yeah, you're absolutely right. Tactics and maybe tactics do work. But at the end of the day, it's the foundation that's going to give you legacy, that's going to give you a dynasty organization.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can always find new tactics if you have the right foundation.
Of course. Yeah.
Right on. So who would be your ideal, who would be the person that would get the most out of working with you?
So again, if you feel like what you do is the magic between your ears, if you feel like you've worked really hard and you are a really good subject matter expert with a mission that's interesting and can impact the world, but you can't quite get over the hump, that's what I do. Because it's not those things that are going to get you to the next level. Those things are what I specialize in. And those things, by the way, are going to give you, if we do it correctly, are going to give you a tribe of people around you who are really bought in on your mission, who would probably go over a cliff for you. But it just takes different skills, and it takes different types of effort, and it takes different types of planning to get there.
Wow. And now, is that, you're touching on the mission thing a few times. So maybe we can dive into that a little bit. How important is it to have a good mission statement? And does every business need it?
Here's what I would say. Every business, when they filed their LLC, wrote a mission statement and they wrote their core values. And that's why the very first thing that I do when I talk to somebody is I ask them if they did that. Almost without fail, almost all of them say, yes, I did. And I say, what are they? And they go, I don't know. They're in a drawer somewhere. I'd have to ask my partner. I think one of them was honor. And it's just like, this is not the truth. I mean, listen, Tim, I've talked to you for 30 minutes or however long we've been on this call, 43 minutes. And I could probably, if I took a moment, think of what your mission is just by what you're doing. And so if you don't know what your mission is, you're lost. You're a ship drifting at sea. And I think a lot of times, especially those folks that are so laser focused on execution and on making an impact in their chosen field that they're experts in, they forget about sort of the long-term goal of where we're going. And this is why you have mechanics that do oil changes every single day, all day. And they never grow from that. This is why you have, chefs that work as fry cooks and they never own their own restaurant. This is why you have gyms or personal trainers that are the absolute best personal trainer in their area, but they have absolutely nothing to show for it and dozens instead of hundreds of clients.
Okay. How do we find out more?
You can find me at Jason Skeesick on Instagram, at Spear and Clover on Instagram. Jason at spearandclover.com is my email. And you can find, we have amazing giveaways. I don't know when this will come out, so that is a rotating thing. But we do have some amazing content that's free on spearandclover.com.
Spearandclover.com. Thank you so much, Jason, for rocking out with me today. It's been a lot of fun.
Tim, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate your time.
Awesome. To the listeners, make sure you subscribe, rate, and comment. We'll see you next time on the Work at Home Rockstar Podcast.